My crush used my face to promote her scam. After I laughed at her MLM pitch, then said, "You humiliated me for free. I made sure you'd pay for it." When I asked why, she smirked and said, "Because even frauds deserve revenge." I just stared at her. That was 3 months ago. Today, she was sobbing alone outside the courthouse, while her parents paid my judgment in full. I still remember the night I downloaded Tinder. I was 8 beers down, in my house all alone, with no one to talk to. And that's how I met Isabella. Not only was she beautiful, but we clicked straight away, which, if you've ever downloaded that forsaken app, you know is rare. Drunk me was convinced that she was the love of my life. We literally stayed up all night talking, texting back and forth. I don't think I even left the messages app. I think when we were 2 hours in, I asked to FaceTime, but she seemed apprehensive, so I didn't push her. At that point, she could have looked like Shrek, and I still would have been happy to be with her, because she seemed like everything I'd ever wanted. But I guess she was really insecure, because it took a month of convincing and reassuring before we finally met up. And when we did, I could see why. Because she had dwarfism. Well, I didn't care. In fact, it wasn't even the first thing I noticed. She had these icy blue eyes paired with a beautiful smile, but she didn't feel the same way. "Ugh, am I worse than what you were expecting?" she asked, completely embarrassed. I smiled and kissed her forehead. "You are perfect." She blushed, and we walked to the cafe I had planned for us. But turns out her dwarfism wasn't her only surprise, because that's when she pulled out a 2-inch thick binder full of lighting fixtures. My eyebrows furrowed, completely unsure where Isabella was going with this. At first, she painted it as me supporting her hobby, but as she continued to speak, I realized what was going on. She was trying to scam me on some wild MLM scheme. When I noticed, I started laughing. Hard. To this day, it is still the most nonsensical situation I have ever found myself in, but she didn't appreciate the humor in it. Now, I'm still not sure if she actually thought I was laughing at her dwarfism, or if she just wanted attention. But either way, she started crying. Hollering, actually. Like a baby. Naturally, people turned to stare. But by that point, I had already decided that I was done with Isabella, and walked out. The next morning, I noticed that the little send icon on iMessage was green, and I could no longer find her Instagram page. But I didn't even care that she had blocked me, because I was ready to move on too. Until 2 weeks later, when I get a knock on my front door. It's a guy holding a clipboard and a massive cardboard box labeled "Lighting by Isabella." Apparently, I had signed up to be a regional distributor. There was an email confirmation, a fake signature, and even a full down payment of $500, all charged to my credit card. I had ghosted and humiliated a girl with dwarfism, who believed I laughed at her appearance and rejected her lighting empire, so she somehow scammed me. Except that wasn't the end, because as I later found out, Isabella planned on punishing me. A lot more. When I got home that evening, there was a notice from my landlord taped to my door. Apparently, there had been complaints about me running an unauthorized business from my apartment, violating the terms of my lease. I had 30 days to cease all commercial activities, or face eviction. The next morning, I found my car with a flat tire in the parking lot, then another the following day. Someone had clearly slashed them. This wasn't bad luck or road damage. The cuts were clean and deliberate, a message that Isabella could reach me anywhere. I knew it was Isabella, but I couldn't prove it. She was systematically trying to destroy my life, all because I'd laughed at her MLM pitch during our coffee date. It seemed so disproportionate, so calculated, that I wondered if William was right about her having serious issues. I decided to take a different approach. If Isabella wanted to play dirty, I needed to be smarter, not nastier. I remembered she'd mentioned during our texting marathon that she hosted weekly webinars to recruit new distributors. With William's help, I created a fake identity, Elizabeth, a recently divorced woman looking for business opportunities, and signed up for the next webinar. The webinar was eye-opening. Isabella presented herself as a successful entrepreneur with a thriving lighting business. She showed doctored testimonials from satisfied distributors, including a photo of me that she'd taken from my social media, claiming I was making thousands in passive income. She promised unrealistic returns and used elevated pressure tactics to get people to sign up on the spot. Most importantly, she explicitly stated that distributors could use their personal credit cards to sign others up without their knowledge as a way to help them get started. A clear admission of the fraud she'd committed against me and others. I recorded the entire webinar, capturing every false claim and illegal suggestion. William put me in touch with a consumer protection blogger who specialized in exposing MLM scams. After verifying my story and evidence, the blogger published a detailed post about Lighting by Isabella and its fraudulent practices. The post wasn't viral by any means, but it started showing up in Google searches for the company. Former victims found it and added their stories in the comments. A few people who'd been considering joining backed out after reading it. Isabella's retaliation was swift and vicious. An anonymous email was sent to my company's general address, claiming I had a history of harassing women. Someone messaged my ex-girlfriend with fabricated stories about things I'd supposedly said about her after our breakup. My landlord received photoshopped images appearing to show damage I'd done to the apartment, but I was prepared this time. I'd warned my boss and HR about potential false allegations. I'd explained the situation to my landlord, showing him the evidence of Isabella's scam. I'd even reached out to my ex to give her a heads up that someone might contact her with lies. The tide was finally turning. Several of Isabella's victims who had shown up at my apartment agreed to provide written statements about their experiences. William introduced me to 2 other men who'd had similar experiences with Isabella and her various businesses. We compiled all our evidence, the fraudulent charges, the edited screenshots, the recorded webinar, the witness statements, and filed a small claims lawsuit against Isabella for fraud and defamation. The day of the small claims court hearing finally arrived. I barely slept the night before, going over all the evidence one last time. William met me for coffee beforehand to help calm my nerves. He'd been through this before and knew what to expect. Just stick to the facts, he advised, stirring his Americano. Don't let her bait you into an emotional response. The judge will see through her act if you stay calm. I nodded, my stomach in knots. The courthouse was an imposing brick building downtown, nothing like the casual settings of TV court shows. I wore my best suit, the one I usually saved for job interviews, hoping to make a good impression. As William and I walked up the steps, I spotted Isabella waiting near the entrance. She was alone, wearing a conservative blue dress that made her look smaller and more vulnerable than I remembered. Our eyes met briefly before she looked away, her expression unreadable. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, with wooden benches and fluorescent lighting that hummed overhead. When our case was called, Isabella and I approached the front. She immediately played up her height difference, making a show of struggling to see over the table. The judge, an older woman with silver-rimmed glasses and a no-nonsense expression, watched impassively. I presented my case first, laying out the evidence methodically just as William and I had practiced. I explained how Isabella had fraudulently charged my credit card, listed my address as her business's return center, and damaged my professional reputation with edited screenshots and false accusations. I submitted the recordings of her webinar where she explicitly encouraged distributors to sign people up without their knowledge, along with statements from 15 other victims. When it was Isabella's turn, she transformed completely. Gone was the confident business owner from the webinar, replaced by a tearful woman claiming I had mocked her dwarfism and was now harassing her out of spite. She showed the judge the edited screenshots of our conversations, claiming they were the original versions. He's just angry because I rejected him, she said, her voice quavering perfectly. He's using his privilege to bully me because of my disability. The judge listened without expression, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When Isabella finished her performance, I thought I saw a flicker of sympathy in the judge's eyes. My heart sank. Was she buying this act? Then the judge did something unexpected. She asked to see both sets of screenshots, Isabella's edited versions and my originals. She compared them side by side, her expression growing increasingly stern. Ms. Martin, she said finally, looking up at Isabella over her glasses, these messages have clearly been altered. The timestamps don't match up, and there are inconsistencies in the formatting. Isabella tried to protest, but the judge cut her off. Furthermore, the webinar recording where you explicitly instruct people to sign others up without consent constitutes admission of fraud. The judge ruled entirely in my favor. Isabella was ordered to pay back the $500 she'd fraudulently charged to my card, plus an additional $2,000 in damages. She was required to remove all content using my name or likeness from her website and social media, cease listing my address as a business location, and retract her false statements about me publicly. Isabella's face hardened as the judgment was read. When the judge finished, she turned to me with pure hatred in her eyes. "This isn't over," she hissed before storming out of the courtroom. William clapped me on the shoulder as we left. "Congratulations, man. It's rare to get such a clear win in these cases." I should have felt elated, but Isabella's parting words left me uneasy. "You think she'll actually comply with the judgment?" William shrugged. "She might try to appeal, but it won't go anywhere. The evidence was too solid." He was right about the appeal. Isabella filed one the next day, claiming the judge was biased against people with disabilities. It was denied almost immediately, but that didn't mean she gave up. Over the next week, I received dozens of pizza deliveries I never ordered. My email was signed up for hundreds of spam lists. Someone even tried to access my bank account, thankfully unsuccessfully. It was annoying but manageable. I changed my passwords, set up two-factor authentication on everything, and started recording all the harassment for potential future legal action. The real victory came when I returned to work. HR had completed their investigation and found no evidence of wrongdoing on my part. My boss, Robert, actually apologized for how the situation was handled. "We should have given you more benefit of the doubt," he admitted as I settled back at my desk, "especially given your track record here." My coworkers welcomed me back warmly, though I noticed a few still gave me sideways glances in the break room. Reputations are easier to damage than repair, I guess. Still, it felt good to get back to normal, focusing on network security issues that seemed refreshingly straightforward compared to the chaos of the past month. The angry customers stopped showing up at my apartment too. Isabella had finally removed my address from her website, replacing it with a P.O. box. I still had all those lighting fixtures cluttering my place though. I ended up donating most of them to a local theater company for their set designs. They were actually pretty excited about the weird collection of lamps and sconces, even if they were cheaply made. Some of my friends who had distanced themselves after seeing Isabella's posts started reaching out again. My buddy Mike texted to ask if I wanted to grab beers and catch up. My college roommate Quinn, who had sent me a pretty nasty message believing Isabella's lies, called to apologize. I forgave them both. It was easier than holding grudges, and honestly, the edited screenshots had looked pretty damning. Not everyone came back around though. My friend Taylor, who works with disability advocacy groups, still believed I had mocked Isabella's dwarfism. A few acquaintances continued to view me with suspicion. I decided to let it go. You can't control what everyone thinks of you. The most unexpected development came about a month after the court case. I was grocery shopping when a woman approached me in the produce section. She looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place her at first. "Jordan?" she asked hesitantly. "I'm Jamie. My fiancé Casey and I came to your apartment about the wedding lights." I remembered them then. The young couple who'd been scammed out of $1,000 for their wedding reception lighting. "Oh, right. How did the wedding go?" Jamie smiled. "That's actually why I wanted to thank you. After we talked to you, we joined your lawsuit as witnesses. Isabella actually refunded our money after the judgment. We were able to get proper lighting just in time." She showed me wedding photos on her phone. The venue looked beautiful, with string lights creating a warm glow over the dance floor. It felt good to know that at least one story had a happy ending. "We're having people over for dinner next weekend," Jamie said. "Nothing fancy, just a casual get-together. You should come. Casey would love to thank you in person." I accepted the invitation, surprised but pleased. It was nice to make new friends out of such a bizarre situation. William and I stayed in touch too. We met for drinks occasionally, swapping stories about our Isabella experiences and other dating disasters. He'd become something of a mentor to me, helping me navigate the aftermath of the whole ordeal. "The key is to learn from it without becoming bitter," he told me one night over beers. I almost let my experience with Isabella turn me into someone who couldn't trust anyone. I knew what he meant. There were moments when I caught myself, becoming paranoid, questioning people's motives, hesitating to share personal information. But I was working on it. Trust issues are understandable after being scammed, but I didn't want them to define me. As for Isabella, her lighting by Isabella, empire began to crumble. The consumer protection blog post gained traction, with more victims coming forward in the comments. Her business social media accounts went quiet. The website stayed up but wasn't updated. According to Olivia, who I ran into again at another craft fair, Isabella had moved on to a new venture selling revolutionary skincare products. "She'll never stop," Olivia told me with a sad smile. "She's been doing this since elevated school. Different products, same scam. Our parents enable her, always bailing her out when things go south." I felt a strange mix of pity and lingering anger toward Isabella. What kind of life was she living? Constantly creating these elaborate schemes only to have them fall apart? Always moving on to the next scam instead of building something real? It seemed exhausting and ultimately empty. 6 months after our disastrous coffee date, I received an unexpected email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line was simply, "Sorry." The message was brief. "Jordan, I'm in therapy now. What I did to you and others wasn't okay. I'm working through my issues. This isn't an excuse, just an explanation. I'm sorry. Isabella." I stared at the screen for a long time, unsure how to feel. Part of me wanted to believe she was genuinely trying to change. Another part suspected this was just another manipulation tactic. I decided not to respond. Some chapters are better left closed. The whole experience changed me in ways I'm still discovering. I'm more cautious now, especially with online relationships. I verify information before trusting it. I keep better records of financial transactions. I'm quicker to recognize red flags in people's behavior, but I didn't let it make me cynical. I re-downloaded Tinder eventually, though I'm much more careful about who I meet and how much I share. I've had a few decent dates, nothing serious yet, but I'm open to possibilities. The lighting fixtures became something of a running joke among my friends. I kept one particularly ridiculous crystal chandelier as a conversation piece in my living room. Whenever someone new comes over and asks about it, I have quite the story to tell. Last week, I was cleaning out old files on my laptop and found the original screenshots of my conversations with Isabella before everything went sideways. Reading through them was strange, like glimpsing an alternate timeline where things could have been different. There were genuine moments of connection there, jokes that made me smile even now, shared interests that seemed so promising. It made me wonder briefly what might have happened if she'd just been honest from the beginning. If she'd shown up to our date without the MLM pitch, just as herself, I might have really liked her. Height differences don't matter much when you connect with someone's mind, but that wasn't the path we took. Instead, I got a crash course in fraud, small claims court, and reputation management. Not exactly the romance I was looking for when I drunkenly downloaded Tinder that night, but definitely a story worth telling. William tells me I should write a book about it. Maybe someday I will. For now, I'm focused on moving forward, rebuilding the parts of my life that got damaged in the Isabella storm, and being a bit more careful about who I swipe right on. Oh, and I finally got rid of the last box of lighting fixtures last weekend. Gave them to a friend who's renovating his basement. He knows they're cheap knockoffs, but as he put it, free is free, and they still light up. Sometimes that's all you can ask for. Something that works, even if it comes with a complicated backstory.